Among the countless monsters that emerged from the darkness of World War II, one figure stands above all others in terms of pure scientific evil and calculated cruelty. Dr. Josef Mengele, the infamous Angel of Death at Auschwitz-Birkenau, represents perhaps the most terrifying fusion of medical expertise and sadistic brutality in human history. The making of a monster born on March 16, 1911, in the Bavarian city of Günzburg, Germany, Josef Mengele appeared destined for academic success rather than infamy. He was the eldest son of a prosperous farming equipment manufacturer and showed early promise in the sciences. By 1935, he had earned a PhD in physical anthropology from the University of Munich, followed by passing state medical exams in 1936. What transformed this promising young doctor into history's most feared medical practitioner was his embrace of Nazi racial science, a pseudo-scientific theory that claimed Germans were biologically superior to all other races. In 1937, Mengele began working at the Institute for Hereditary Biology and Racial Hygiene in Frankfurt under Dr. Ottmar von Verschuer, a leading geneticist known for twin research. This mentorship would prove catastrophic for thousands of future victims. The path to Auschwitz-Mengele's descent into evil accelerated when he joined the Nazi Party and SS in 1938. After being drafted into the Wehrmacht in 1940, he volunteered for the Waffen-SS medical service, serving on the brutal Eastern Front where his division slaughtered thousands of Jewish civilians. His exemplary military service earned him the Iron Cross and promotion to SS captain. On May 30, 1943, Mengele received the assignment that would make him the most notorious war criminal in history, Auschwitz-Birkenau. There is evidence suggesting he specifically requested this posting, seeing it as an unprecedented opportunity for human experimentation. At Auschwitz, he would have access to over 1.3 million victims from diverse ethnic backgrounds, a researcher's dream turned into humanity's nightmare. The Angel of Death at Auschwitz-Birkenau, Mengele served as one of approximately 50 camp physicians, but his name became synonymous with the horrors of the Holocaust due to his frequent presence at the selection ramps where new arrivals were sorted for immediate death or temporary labor. Prisoners dubbed him the Angel of Death, as his appearance at the camp infirmary filled them with terror. Dr. Gisela Perl, a Jewish gynecologist imprisoned at Birkenau, later recalled, "We feared these visits more than anything else because we never knew whether we would be permitted to live. He was free to do whatever he pleased with us." This absolute power over life and death became Mengele's most terrifying characteristic. When transports arrived at Birkenau, Mengele would stand on the selection ramp with a slight smile, pointing with his index finger. Left meant immediate death in the gas chambers. Right meant temporary reprieve as a laborer. Even when not officially conducting selections, Mengele frequently appeared at the ramps, scanning the crowds for potential research subjects, particularly twins and individuals with physical abnormalities. The research complex of Horror Mengele organized an elaborate research complex located across multiple barracks within Auschwitz, staffed by prisoner physicians working under duress. He obtained state-of-the-art medical instruments and equipment for his research, even establishing a fully equipped pathology laboratory where autopsies on his victims were conducted. This institutional support from the SS and collaboration with mainstream German research institutes made his crimes even more chilling. His mentor Verschuer may have specifically arranged Mengele's assignment to Auschwitz to support research at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Anthropology, Human Genetics, and Eugenics. Throughout his time at the camp, Mengele regularly shipped blood samples, body parts, organs, skeletons, and fetuses to colleagues in Germany. This systematic collaboration with respected academic institutions demonstrated how deeply embedded his criminal research was within Germany's scientific establishment. Experiments beyond human comprehension. What made Mengele uniquely horrifying was not just his role in selections, but his systematic approach to human experimentation. Operating from his research complex, Mengele conducted experiments that defied all medical ethics and human decency, treating prisoners as laboratory specimens rather than human beings. His primary focus was twin research. Building on his mentor Verschuer's work, but on an unprecedented scale. Mengele collected hundreds of pairs of twins from arriving transports, particularly targeting Roma and Jewish children. These children received slightly better food and treatment than other prisoners, with Mengele acting as a good uncle who brought them chocolate and gifts before subjecting them to unspeakable procedures. The initial phase of twin experiments involved comprehensive medical examinations, photography, dental impressions, and fingerprinting. However, these seemingly routine procedures were merely preparation for the horrific experiments that followed. Once these examinations were complete, the twins were killed with lethal phenol injections directly to the heart, allowing Mengele to proceed to the next phase, comparative autopsies and analysis of their internal organs. The most horrific procedures Mengele's. Experiments went far beyond twin studies, encompassing a range of procedures that pushed the boundaries of human cruelty. He conducted sterilization experiments using iodine, X-rays, and silver nitrate, performed castrations on those deemed subhuman, and attempted to create artificial Siamese twins. Perhaps most horrifically, he regularly removed organs from live patients without anesthesia, believing that conscious subjects provided better research data. One survivor, identified only as Ms. A in testimony, described her experience as a child victim. "I was used as a guinea pig for medical experiments. I was never ever given painkillers or anesthetics. Every day I suffered excruciating pain. I was injected with drugs and chemicals. My body most of the time was connected to tubes, which inserted some drugs into my body. Many days I was tied up for hours. Some days they made cuts into my body and left the wounds open for them to study." His fascination with eye color led to particularly disturbing experiments. Mengele attempted to change children's eye colors by injecting chemical substances directly into their eyes, often causing severe swelling, burning sensations, blindness, and death. He was especially interested in people with heterochromia, different colored eyes, whom he murdered specifically to harvest their eyes for colleagues studying this condition. The children's hell. Most of Mengele's victims were children who lived in separate barracks and received marginally better conditions than other prisoners. Moshe Ofer, a survivor of Mengele's experiments, later described the doctor's manipulative behavior. "Mengele visited us as a good uncle, bringing us chocolate. Before applying the scalpel or a syringe, he would say, 'Don't be afraid, nothing. Here's going to happen to you.' He injected chemical substances, performed surgery on TB's spine. After the experiments, he would bring us gifts. In the course of later experiments, he had pins inserted into our heads. The puncture scars are still visible. One day he took TB away. My brother was gone for several days. When he was brought back, his head was all dressed in bandages. He died in my arms." A prisoner assigned to care for Jewish twins described the children's terror. Samples of blood were collected first from the fingers and then from the arteries, 2 or 3 times from the same victims in some cases. Children screamed and tried to cover themselves up to avoid being touched. The personnel resorted to force. Drops were also put into their eyes. Some pairs of children received drops in both eyes and others in only one. The results of these practices were painful for the victims. They suffered from severe swelling of the eyelids, a burning sensation. The Noma studies. Among Mengele's most disturbing research was his study of Noma fatiae, gangrenous stomatitis, a rare facial gangrene disease that primarily affected Roma children in Auschwitz. Rather than treating this painful and often fatal condition, Mengele saw it as a research opportunity. He studied 63 victims suffering from Noma, documenting the disease's progression while allowing the children to suffer and die. This research exemplified his complete lack of medical ethics, using human suffering as data points rather than attempting to provide treatment or relief. The scale of scientific murder. During his time at Auschwitz, Mengele was responsible for the selection of approximately 293 Romani prisoners for murder in the gas chambers when the gypsy camp was liquidated in August 44. His experiments directly killed hundreds of children and adults, while thousands more died from the aftermath of his procedures. Conservative estimates suggest that Mengele personally conducted experiments on nearly 1,500 sets of twins between 1943 and 1944. The perfect storm of evil, what made Mengele particularly terrifying was his calm, scientific demeanor during these atrocities. Unlike other Nazi criminals driven by obvious sadism or ideology, Mengele approached his work with clinical detachment, viewing his victims as mere research subjects rather than human beings. This cold rationality made him more frightening than overtly violent perpetrators. Mengele represented the convergence of several horrifying elements: advanced medical training, absolute power over victims, unlimited resources, complete freedom from ethical oversight, and institutional support from mainstream German academia. His research was not the work of a lone madman, but part of Germany's scientific establishment, with prestigious institutes eagerly awaiting his findings and specimens. The systematic nature of his crimes, documented procedures, careful record-keeping, collaboration with respected institutions, demonstrated how easily scientific progress could be perverted when conducted without moral constraints. This made him more dangerous than common criminals. He was evil with a medical degree, institutional backing, and the resources of a modern state. Escaped from justice as Soviet forces approached Auschwitz in January 1945. Mengele fled with other SS personnel, destroying much of his research documentation. Through a combination of luck, family wealth, forged documents, and American intelligence failures, he managed to escape to South America. By 1956, he was living openly in Argentina under his real name, protected by the Perón government and a network of Nazi sympathizers. Despite decades of hunting by Israeli intelligence, Nazi hunters like Simon Wiesenthal and various government agencies, Mengele successfully evaded capture for 34 years after the war. He moved between Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil, always staying one step ahead of his pursuers. He died a free man in Brazil in 1979, never facing justice for his crimes, a final horror that compounds the injustice of his victims' suffering. The lasting horror, what makes Mengele the scariest figure of World War II, isn't just the scope of his crimes, but what he represents about human nature and the corruption of science. He wasn't a street thug or political fanatic. He was a highly educated professional who used his medical knowledge to inflict unimaginable suffering on innocent people, particularly children. His case demonstrates how quickly medical ethics can be abandoned when authority figures remove moral constraints and provide institutional support for atrocities. His legacy serves as a permanent warning about the dangers of unchecked scientific authority, the ease with which educated professionals can become instruments of evil, and the critical importance of medical ethics in preventing such horrors. The fact that he lived for 34 years after the war without facing consequences adds another layer of horror to his story. The monster who got away, dying peacefully while his victims' families never received justice. Among all the perpetrators of Nazi atrocities, Josef Mengele stands alone as the most terrifying combination of intelligence, opportunity, institutional support, and absolute moral corruption. His name remains synonymous with the darkest possibilities of human nature and the perversion of science, making him truly the scariest man of World War II. A reminder that evil can wear a doctor's coat and hide behind academic credentials while inflicting unimaginable suffering on the innocent.